The taxi pulled up to the two-story house on a quiet Phoenix street just as the late afternoon sun turned the roses golden. Those roses, I had planted them 30 years ago with Anthony, back when our hands were young and our dreams were still fresh. Now the blooms looked neglected, petals drooping like they knew something I didn't. I stepped out slowly, leaning heavily on my cane. The hip replacement had been complicated. 3 weeks in the hospital instead of the expected 5 days, fever, infection, endless nights staring at fluorescent lights. But I was finally home. Or so I thought. The driver offered help with my small suitcase. "Just to the door, please," I said, my voice still rough from hospital air. "My son should be waiting." The front door opened before we reached it. Richard stood there, my only child, the boy I raised alone after Anthony's death, the man whose college I paid for with double shifts at the bank. No smile, no open arms, just a face I barely recognized, cold, resolute, distant. "Mom," he said flatly, "you weren't supposed to come today." Behind him, movement in the living room. Veronica, his wife, perfect blonde hair, wearing my emerald earrings, the ones Anthony gave me for our 25th anniversary. And further back, her parents, Raymond Sterling, tall and silver-haired, always carrying himself like he owned every room he entered. Claudia, lips pursed in perpetual judgment. "Richard, what's going on?" I asked, stepping forward. He didn't move aside. "Things changed while you were in the hospital. This house is no longer yours. You have no place here. Find somewhere else to live." The words landed like a physical blow. My wound throbbed in protest. "What are you talking about?" I managed. "We made arrangements. The house is in trust." "Power of attorney. The papers you signed before surgery for medical decisions, they included financial authority too. The transfer's done. Veronica's parents needed space. This place is too big for you alone." I stared at him. "You tricked me." Veronica stepped forward, voice dripping false sweetness. "Isabella, we've packed your personal items. They're in boxes in the garage. We can send them wherever you end up staying." Raymond added, not sounding sorry at all. "Richard made the arrangements very clear. It's legal." Legal. The word echoed in my head. I had signed those papers blindly, trusting my son while I was terrified of going under anesthesia. "This is my home," I said quietly. "Anthony and I built this." Richard's face hardened. "It's done, Mom. Don't make it harder." Something inside me cracked. Not into tears, but into ice-cold clarity. I had spent 30 years in bank compliance. I knew patterns, irregularities, red flags. This wasn't just greed. This was calculated. I turned away. Enjoy it then. The taxi was still waiting. I had asked the driver to stay. I limped back, climbed in, and sent one message. To Gloria, Plan B. Chapter 2. The Hotel Room Conspiracy. The downtown Phoenix hotel room was clean but soulless. Beige walls, stiff sheets, the faint smell of industrial cleaner. I sat on the edge of the bed, crumpled discharge papers in my pocket, hands trembling. Gloria arrived just after midnight. 40 years of friendship showed in her silver bun, tailored suit, and the fury blazing in her eyes. She hugged me carefully, mindful of my stitches. "Those miserable vultures," she whispered. I tried to smile. "Physically, I'm standing. Emotionally, I keep waiting to wake up." She opened her briefcase like a general preparing for war. Files, printouts, timelines. "The trust Anthony set up is ironclad," she said. "The house transfer won't hold. But there's more, Isabella, much more." She slid a bank statement across the desk. 5 transfers totaling $220,000 from my investment accounts made while I was in the ICU, barely conscious. Digital signatures in my name. "They didn't just take the house," I whispered. "They were draining me dry." Gloria's face darkened. "And it gets worse," she said. "I had my investigator check the Sterlings. Their Dallas real estate consulting business has a trail of withdrawn complaints, predatory loans, forged appraisals, properties seized from seniors. Veronica's LinkedIn shows stints at 3 mortgage companies that shut down for regulatory violations." The picture sharpened. They weren't opportunists, they were professionals. I remembered Veronica's sudden interest in my finances over the past year, Richard's casual questions about account numbers. The groundwork had been laid long before my surgery. "Richard," I said, his name catching in my throat. "How deep is he?" Gloria's silence was answer enough. I closed my eyes. I taught him better. "People change when money is involved," she said softly. "The question is, what do you want?" I opened my eyes. "Everything. I want my house back. I want them to face consequences. All of them. Even Richard." Gloria nodded. "Then we play smart. We document, we follow the money, and we let them think they've won." My phone buzzed. A message from Richard. "Mom, we need the passwords to your remaining investment accounts to transfer funds for your care. Send ASAP." I showed Gloria. She shook her head in disgust. "Nothing yet. Let them sweat." Chapter 3. The Neighborhood Plot Revealed. 3 days later, we moved to a better extended stay suite. Cash only, no trace. My strength was returning slowly. The emotional wound still bled. Gloria slid her laptop toward me. "You need to see this." Property records. The Millers, 2 houses down, sold 3 months ago to Sterling Investment Properties, LLC. The Hendersons across the street sold last month to the same entity, the corner lot already under contract. "They're buying the whole block," I murmured. She flipped to a zoning application filed 2 weeks ago, while I was still in the hospital. Request to rezone from single-family residential to mixed-use commercial. My neighborhood sat on the edge of downtown Phoenix's expansion zone. If rezoned, values would triple overnight. Potential profit? $15 to $20 million. "They're using my house as headquarters," I said, the realization hitting like ice water. "And my money funded the down payments?" Gloria showed security footage of Richard and Veronica at my bank 2 days after my surgery, accessing my safe deposit box while I was sedated. They removed the original deed and trust documents. Then emails, recovered by Gloria's SEC contacts, Veronica and Raymond discussing my neighborhood properties 8 months ago. One line chilled me. "Mother unlikely to fully recover from scheduled surgery, accelerated timeline." My hip replacement wasn't an emergency, it was planned months in advance. "They were waiting for this," I whispered. Gloria's voice was gentle but firm. "We don't know if Richard knew the full extent." "Enough," I said, raising my hand. "He knew enough." I turned away. "Enjoy it then." The taxi was still waiting. I had asked the driver to stay. I limped back, climbed in, and sent one message. To Gloria, Plan B. A week later, I stood in the hotel bathroom, applying makeup with steady hands. Gray pantsuit, simple jewelry, bank professional, not defeated widow. Gloria checked her watch. Veronica's at the salon, Raymond and Claudia at a showing, Richard at work till 5. I nodded. "Let's go." The taxi dropped me 2 blocks away. I walked slowly, cane more prop than necessity. The neighborhood looked the same. Gardens, old oaks, childhood memories, but tainted now. I circled to the side kitchen door, the one Richard used to sneak through as a teenager. The key still worked. Inside, voices from my study. Anthony's antique desk now occupied by Raymond. "The Miller closing is Friday. That gives us 40% of the block." Another voice. "And the Henderson financing?" "Clean. Used Mrs. Hayes's banking credentials." I gripped my cane. They were using my name, my 30-year reputation to fraud neighbors. I activated my phone recorder and pushed the door open. They froze. "Hello, Raymond," I said calmly. "Discussing business in my study?" "Isabella." He stood. "How did you get in?" "Through the door," I replied. "The same door to the house that still legally belongs to me." His partner edged toward the exit. Raymond's face hardened. "You're confused. The hospitalization affected your mind." I smiled coldly. "My mind is clear enough to know you're using my credentials for fraudulent loans." I opened a filing cabinet, pulled a folder. "The Henderson property, financed with my data. I just heard you." Raymond lunged. "Give me the phone." I backed away. "I have what I came for." He grabbed my arm. Pain shot through my hip. "Let go," I said loudly. At that moment, the front door burst open. "FBI, hands where we can see them." Agents Rips and Callahan stormed in. Raymond released me. My panic button app had worked. Agent Rips approached. "Mrs. Hayes, are you all right?" "Yes," I said, leaning on the doorframe, "and I have something you'll want to hear." Chapter 5. The Raid and the Reckoning. 3 hours later, I sat in an unmarked car across from my house. Evening shadows stretched across the lawn where Richard once played. Veronica's car in the driveway. Richard home early. Agents moved in. "Federal agents, we have a warrant." From my vantage point, I saw Veronica's face shift from confusion to shock. Richard appeared beside her, protective until he saw me with the agents. "Mom?" His voice cracked. Agent Callahan stated formally, "Your mother has provided evidence of large-scale financial fraud by the Sterling family." Richard looked desperate. "This is absurd, a misunderstanding." I stepped forward. "Raymond was very clear this morning, using my credentials in my study." Veronica paled. "You were here?" "The side door." "Some things about this house you never learned, like the fact it belongs to a trust Anthony created. Gloria never signed away her trustee rights." Agents led Veronica to a vehicle. She spat. "You think you've won. My father's lawyers." "Your father is in custody." I interrupted. "Your mother, too. Dallas offices are being searched." Richard stood on the porch watching agents carry out boxes. "Mom," he whispered as I turned away, "I didn't know everything." I paused. "Perhaps not, but you knew enough." He asked the question I had asked myself weeks earlier. "Where am I supposed to go now?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The symmetry was perfect. Chapter 6. The Darkest Revelations. 2 weeks later, in an FBI conference room, Agent Rips placed photos on the table. Hospital room. Me. Unconscious in ICU. Medical records. Charts. Dosage changes. Higher pain meds. Crossed out prescriptions. A nurse, Miranda Jenkins, had accessed my file repeatedly. Payments from a Sterling shell company, $25,000. She admitted to introducing mild bacterial contamination during IV changes, calibrated to prolong hospitalization without killing me. Veronica orchestrated it. Texts recovered, precise questions about my treatment, discharge date. And then, the life insurance policy, taken 6 months ago. Beneficiary? Richard Thompson. I felt the room tilt. Richard knew? The signature is his, but we've seen forgeries. We're investigating. I insisted on being present when they confronted him. In the interview room, Richard's face went white as photos were shown. "I didn't know," he whispered, horror genuine. "Veronica handled insurance. I signed whatever she gave me." His panic wasn't acting. He hadn't known about the medical sabotage, about the plan to institutionalize me in a memory care unit, isolated, no visitors, total control. He asked to amend his statement. "I'll tell you everything about Veronica and her parents." Chapter 7. The Final Confrontation. Months passed. Arrests, plea deals. Veronica, 18 years. Raymond, 20. Claudia, 15. Nurse Jenkins, 8, reduced for cooperation. Richard took 5 years, possibly 3 with good behavior, for his testimony. In the detention center visitation room, fluorescent lights, metal table, he looked diminished. "I never wanted this," he said. "The bad investments 3 years ago, I lost everything. Raymond offered help, then leverage. I was trapped." I listened. When he asked for forgiveness, I said, "It's not instant. It's a road. You're still my son. What happens next depends on you." I handed him Anthony's last letter, written before he died, saved for when Richard needed it most. He read it in silence. Tears fell. Afterwards, I walked out feeling something shift. Not healing, clarity. 6 months later, rebirth. The house is mine again. Roses bloom, new security system, new curtains, traces of the Sterlings erased. The neighborhood formed a senior protection network, properties returned to owners. The Anthony Miller Foundation now includes an elder protection division, education, legal aid, fraud prevention. My scars became someone else's shield. Richard writes weekly, remorseful, studying, changing. I haven't visited again yet, but I'm considering it. Because some wounds never fully close. They teach you how to become stronger than the blade that made them. And in the golden light of my porch swing, watching the garden Anthony and I planted come back to life, I finally understand. The day you blocked me at my own doorstep, you forgot that a mother's home isn't just wood and brick. Today, the home is mine. You are jails, and the price of betrayal will last you a lifetime. The end.